Welcome to Twists of Life, where every story has an unexpected turn. Stories of joy and sorrow, hope and redemption, just like the life we all live. Make yourself comfortable. It's time to begin. If only he lives. If only he lives, Sarah Miller whispered, hurrying to the hospital. The call had reached her at work. Her only son, her Andy, was in trouble and was now in the clinic. Andrew was on a school trip with a group when the minibus they were in was rammed by a truck. Almost all the children got off with a fright, but Andrew and one other girl were seriously injured. The teacher said that Andrew was the worst off. Sarah, not feeling her legs, flew up the stairs to the third floor, where the intensive care unit was located. Only at that moment did it dawn on her. She had completely forgotten to call her husband. Bill, can you hear me? Andy's in intensive care. A truck crashed into the minibus. Come to City Hospital 5 immediately. I'm here, on the third floor. William Miller, dropping everything, rushed to the hospital. Suddenly, he remembered how his heart had stopped in anticipation of his son's birth. He and Sally had been married for 17 years, and their son was only 9. 8 long years of waiting, and then, the miracle, Andy's arrival. William recalled holding the baby for the first time, walking with the stroller in the park, teaching him to ride a bicycle. Tears flowed involuntarily down his cheeks. He imagined how difficult it must be for Sally now and tried to compose himself to support her, rather than worsen her despair with his appearance. Approaching the hospital, he glanced in the mirror, looked okay, holding it together. Sally sat in the corridor by the intensive care doors, her head bowed, sobbing silently. Apparently her tears had already dried up. Seeing her husband, she jumped up from the chair and rushed towards him. Bill, they still aren't saying anything. I don't understand why. Calm down, Sally, dear. They will tell us. We need to wait. Everything will be all right, absolutely. Half an hour later, a doctor came out of the unit. Are you the boys' parents? Yes, they answered in unison. I have 2 pieces of news for you. The first, your son will live. The second, he is in a coma. How long he will remain in this state I cannot say, but we are doing everything possible. He has a very serious head injury. It's difficult to make predictions about his future now, but overall, let's be patient and wait. The sooner he comes out of the coma, the better. William pulled the doctor aside. Tell me, doctor, is there anything needed? Medications? Any supplies? Just say the word. We'll find and buy everything. No, that won't help here. All that's left is to pray, believe, and wait. But you can go home today. They won't let you see him anyway. Come back tomorrow. No matter how much Sarah pleaded with the doctor, he was adamant. You cannot see your son, period. They had to go home. The next day, from early morning, the parents were back at the hospital. They hadn't managed to sleep properly. All their thoughts were occupied by their child. William found the doctor and asked about Andrew's condition. Indicators are stable, but he hasn't regained consciousness. Today you can be by his side and even stay overnight. And my advice to you, based on experience, talk to him more. Patients who have come out of comas often said they heard everything and returned to life by following the voices of their loved ones. William turned to his wife. Sally, maybe you should go home, rest a little, change, and come back for the night. I'll stay with him for now. And don't argue, you need to get at least some sleep. Sarah looked at her husband in surprise, as if seeing him for the first time. Do you seriously think I can sleep, knowing the state my child is in? I won't move from here one step until the situation is clear. Don't ask and don't try to persuade me. Go home yourself and bring me some comfortable clothes, and I'll stay with Andy. William knew his wife's character well and understood that it was useless to try and change her mind. So he went home alone to change and get everything Sarah needed. Sally sat in her son's room, squeezing his hand and crying. How much she had gone through for this happiness to happen. Endless tests, analyses, treatments that seemed like they would never end. And then the miracle happened. She became pregnant. A difficult pregnancy, almost 6 months in the hospital on bed rest, agonizing labor. But it was all for a reason, all so she could become a truly happy woman. And now her most precious thing lay here, and nothing depended on her. This feeling of hopelessness squeezed her heart. She wanted to scream, or rather, howl with pain, but she couldn't do that here, in the hospital. Gathering her strength with difficulty, she remembered the doctor's words. Talk to him more. And she decided to talk to her son. She told him about funny moments from his early childhood, where they had traveled, what they had seen. In short, everything that came to her mind at that moment she recounted. 4 days passed. Andrew's condition remained the same. The indicators were stable, but there were no signs that the boy might wake up. Sally hadn't slept for 4 days. Her strength was leaving her. Her husband's and the doctor's pleas for her to get some sleep had no effect. I won't leave here and I won't sleep until my son comes to. What if I fall asleep and he calls me, and I'm not here? No, and absolutely not. Don't even ask. But the body's reserves are not endless. Sally fell asleep sitting on a chair next to her son. She had a very vivid, wonderful dream. She was walking with Andy in the park with a dog. It was difficult for Andy to walk. He was using a stick, so they moved slowly, while the dog ran around him. Sally opened her eyes. What a realistic dream, she thought. Sonny, my dear, come back to us. We love you very much and are waiting. You know, I had such a beautiful dream. We were walking in the park with a dog. He's still small, black. A Labrador, I think. I know you want a dog. As soon as you get better, you'll be discharged from the hospital and we'll definitely buy you a puppy. You know, I had a dog when I was a child. I loved playing with her very much. She was my best friend. And you'll have a dog. You'll run with her, play ball. She'll sleep with you in your room. A dog is such happiness and joy. We'll even let you and Dad choose the breed yourselves. Whichever one you want, that's the one we'll buy. Just come back. She started crying. At that moment, she was ready to give anything in the world just to hear his voice again and see him laughing. Mom took her son's hand and suddenly felt a reciprocal movement. I must be imagining things, she thought. At that moment, Bill called, and Sally told him about what she thought she had felt, that her son had slightly squeezed her hand. Sally, dear, my love, I understand how much you want this, but the doctor says there's no dynamic yet. We need to wait. Sally herself understood this, but hope did not leave her. She took a book and decided to read aloud to her son for a bit. And suddenly she saw Andrew move his hand. This time there was no doubt. Sally rushed to find the doctor. The doctor's examination brought no comfort to Sarah. That happens. It's a reflex, muscle contraction, anything is quite possible. But it's not an awakening. We'll wait. Sarah was upset. How much she wanted to believe in a miracle. In the evening, William arrived to support his wife and spend a time with his son. They sat by his bed together, talking softly, recalling touching moments from his life. Suddenly, a barely audible whisper reached their ears. Mommy. Sally started in surprise, looked at her husband, and realized he had heard the same thing. She squeezed her son's hand tightly. Sonny, my dear boy, I'm here. Mom's with you. Andrew slightly opened his eyes and slowly shifted his gaze from his mother to his father. Dad, he whispered barely audibly. The parents cried. A miracle had indeed happened. William ran for the doctor. Doctors immediately rushed in, the room filled with medical staff. They checked things, examined, measured, and asked the parents to wait outside the door. An hour after all the necessary procedures, the doctor called them over. You know, this is truly some kind of miracle. Your son is in very good condition. There are some minor difficulties with his leg, but that's fixable, a matter of time. What worried me most was the state of his brain. We will conduct a comprehensive examination tomorrow and then make final conclusions. But I can already say that nothing threatens his full life, and for now, you can go in to see him. Andrew recovered rapidly. A week later, he was discharged home. He still needed physiotherapy and medication, but all of that could be done at home. Finally, the familiar walls welcomed them back. In the evening at dinner, celebrating his return, the family discussed where to go for a vacation after Andrew fully recovered. But Andrew seemed uninterested. He sat silent and thoughtful. His father couldn't stand the silence and asked, "Sonny, is something wrong? Are you not feeling well? Why are you so quiet?" "Dad, when are we going to get the dog?" "What dog?" his father asked, genuinely surprised. "Mom said we'd buy a dog." Perplexed, William said, "Sally, come here, please." "What's wrong?" Sally asked, surprised. "Please tell me, when did we decide to buy a dog? I don't remember such a conversation. Andy says you said that." Sarah's confused gaze shifted from her husband to her son, and then she started crying. "I said that when Andy was in a coma. I just had a dream that we had a dog and we were walking with him in the park. So I suggested to Andy that we buy a puppy." "Oh, Daddy dear, please let's buy a dog. Please, Daddy darling, please. I really want a dog, a real one, alive." Now it was the father's turn to be surprised. He had not expected this at all. He had always been against pets, and now it seemed he would have to give in. "What kind of dog do you want?" "A Labrador, a black boy, please." Tears streamed down his son's cheeks. Although his father was strict, his heart softened. Seeing his son's tears, his son who had been so close to the edge just recently, the father decided to make a concession. "Okay, but one condition," the father said. Andrew froze in anticipation, watching his father anxiously. Sally also waited cautiously, wondering what strange condition he would set. But Dad surprised everyone. "We'll buy a black Labrador puppy, but—" He paused, smiled, looking at his family. "But with papers." "Hooray! I'm going to have a dog." Now Andy was crying with happiness, along with his mother, who also loved dogs. "Daddy, you're the best. Thank you." When his father left them, Andrew turned to his mother and whispered, "Mommy, thank you. I know I would never have had a dog without you." Sarah came over, hugged him tightly, and kissed him. "It's all right, Sonny. I know what it's like to dream of a dog." They spent 2 weeks looking for a puppy. It turned out that finding a black male Labrador was not easy. There were plenty of girls, but the boys were booked even before birth. Future owners got in line. But finally, luck smiled upon them. Among 3 puppies, Andrew chose the one that seemed the most serious to him. "Why did you choose this particular puppy? You see, these ones are more lively and mischievous," his father asked. "No, I need this one. He looks so sad. And do you know why?" "Why?" asked the surprised father. "Because he doesn't have a real friend. He was waiting for me. This is my puppy, Daddy. I saw him in my dream, and I've even thought of a name for him, Bucky." Against such words, there were no objections, and they agreed to take this thoughtful black little one. The puppy was to be picked up on Thursday. The father left work early. He planned to pick up Sally and Andrew after work and go get the puppy together, but he had planned a surprise for his son, to pick up the puppy himself and arrive home with him. All day, Andrew and Sally prepared for the arrival of the new family member. They went to the pet store and bought everything necessary: bowls, food, toys, a mat, training pads, a leash. By evening, they were dressed and waiting. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. "I wonder who that is," Mom said, surprised. "Mom, I'll get it." Andrew threw the door open. William stood on the threshold. In his hands was a black, fluffy ball. "Here you go, Sonny. This is your Bucky. Sorry I went alone. I couldn't wait for you to meet." He handed the puppy to Andrew. Andrew carefully took him, and Bucky immediately began to lick his face. "Mom, Mom, look, he recognized me right away," Andrew shouted, and tears of happiness streamed down his cheeks. "I can't believe I have a dog now. No, not just a dog. He's my best friend. Dad, Mom, I love you so much." And hugging Bucky, he ran to show his new friend his room.